Telecom's operator Cell C will receive a $350 million cash injection, that from Telkom, and a further $2.2 billion in loans from Nedbank and the Development Bank of Southern Africa. South Africa's third largest mobile operator expects to use the fresh funding to improve network quality and boost its capital structure. Now, as we unpack the telecom space, we're joined by Richard Hurst, Senior Analyst at Ovam Enterprise. Thanks for joining us today, Richard. So, of course, that's a nice amount of money for the company. How far will this go in terms of doing what Cell C needs to do to help build up its infrastructure?
I think it's a step in the right direction, and this type of capex and investment will be required on an ongoing basis. And I think it's just a signal as to what has transpired over the last year with the new CEO, Eleanor Craig, and his drive to increase market share, albeit on a subscriber and revenue basis. But I think the key here is that they've seen voice and data traffic increase, and now they need to cater for this upsurge in subscriber figures.
Because ultimately they'll need to start questioning how quickly they can go if that's not met ultimately by the infrastructure to support it. Are they at that point yet?
It's a chicken and egg scenario. It's do you build it and they will come, which can be very risky, and investors don't tend to like that approach, or do you get your subscribers on board but then you give them a substandard experience or quality of service on your network? So that's a very difficult balance.
And they don't come back.
Yes, and then if they don't come back, it will be twice as difficult to get that subscriber. So this is all playing towards the Cell C subscriber acquisition costs that they're looking at now.
Traffic has doubled in Johannesburg for Cell C in the past 12 months. That just shows how well Eleanor Craig's strategy is really working, and that's what, of course, what you've been alluding to. What do you think has worked the best in terms of what he's brought on board?
I think the key has been the initiation of the price war, and we've seen reaction from the other network operators, Telkom Mobile, Vodacom to a certain degree, but that's very compelling when we have a very, I wouldn't say a cost-conscious society. And when we're dealing with those people, then they'll use the network more. So I think that's a symptom of that.
Isn't it dangerous to be engaging in a price war with those who have a lot more power and muscle with you? I mean, I remember just talking outside of this, speaking to Whitey Bassan in ShopRite, saying Pick n Pay is wanting to potentially engage in a price war. He said, bring it on, we'll engage with them on this because you ultimately got more power. Isn't this the same story?
I think it's very much the same story, and those which have the larger war chests will be able to survive the war easier. But I think this is also, this recent cash injection is a signal that perhaps the investors are seeing a benefit and seeing some credence in his strategy in this price war.
Let's talk about termination rates. Currently sitting at the mobile termination rate in South Africa at 40 cents. Cell C's pushing for asymmetrical termination rates. Vodacom says that will be uncompetitive and basically saying that won't work. Do you think Cell C has a case? Does the law support it?
Well, there is space in the Electronic Communications Act, our telecommunications law, for the regulator to develop regulations which would enable a competitive environment, and that would mean where the new entrants are struggling. And there's also mentioned enablers such as asymmetrical rates, which means that they would not be as punitive to Cell C and the other smaller players like Heta, Telkom Mobile.
So basically the bigger players charge more and the smaller players are discounted and essentially helped by the regulator to become more competitive.
Yes, if we look at it, I mean, in the total, the subscriber base of 25 million, 30 million, and then we look at 11.5 and
for Cell C, of course.
Yes. Yep. Then obviously in the interconnect game, Vodacom and MTN are going to be the winners because the majority of interconnect traffic is going to be between, it is going to favor them. So that's the kind of thing that ICAS would look at unlocking.
Outside of Cell C, MTN and Vodacom and this price war termination rates, we're seeing industrial action at Telkom South Africa. Is this going to have a material impact on their operations?
I think it's going to have an impact on the rollout of their next generation network and their fiber, which is a very crucial element to the current executive strategy. It's almost a pity for Telkom because they have a series of perfect storms which tend to hit them. But I do think that they will try to get this one behind them as quickly as possible because they don't wish to fall behind on their rollout as well as their service delivery, and that's to the major enterprises of South Africa.